Well, welcome to the 5th episode of the East Meets West podcast, presented to all you good people by PrimeLending. I'm Al Velasco, once again joined by my friend and colleague, KB, Karen Blakeslee. KB, how are we doing today?
We're doing great, man. I'm up in the beautiful state of Connecticut today with our team.
Nice. Well, once again, you and I are on the road. I was in Houston this week visiting our folks down there, and you're out east. So once again, we're road warriors. That's what we do, right?
That's what we do. That's why when anybody's behavior is on a plane, I don't let it bother me, because I think you and I have seen and heard it all.
So, one of the cool things about what we do is we get to travel around different cities, occasionally get to eat a nice meal, but we're always staying at some pretty interesting places, right? Some interesting hotels, interesting cities that we don't go to. I like Houston. I haven't been to Houston all that often, but it's certainly very different than Minnesota. So I got something for you, KB. Are you ready for it?
Bring it on, man.
I noticed a couple things at hotels that I've been traveling at, and there's a little bit of so I'm trying to make a housing connection here a little bit. Have you ever heard of the oleo dynamic effect?
Not Oreo, but oleo?
Oleo. I believe it's OLIGODYNAMIC effect, right? And what it is do you know why most doorknobs are brass?
No.
No idea, right?
No.
So this dynamic effect is because doorknobs are made of brass because they supposedly can self-disinfect. So back in the day when they started making doorknobs, that's how you obviously spread germs, and they started making out of brass because brass actually kills germs. So when you see a doorknob, especially in an old hotel, it's because they were trying to stop the spread of germs.
How did that end up working out for them?
Well, it must have worked out pretty great, because I still think that, like, you go to new houses and they're still doing brass doorknobs, right?
True.
So, interestingly enough, why during COVID did we not just put brass doorknobs on everybody's doors and just called it a day, right?
That would have been probably cheaper than all the thousands of masks we bought, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why people listen to this podcast, KB, because they get to learn really cool little things that are nonsense, just like we talked about, right? But it's actually kind of true. It's like, now you know why there aren't brass doorknobs. And I can only imagine the impact that's going to have on everybody that's listening to this podcast today. They are going to have a totally different perspective every time they look at a door and they see a brass doorknob.
There you go. Man.
That is the power of podcasting. Actually, it's probably not, but in any case, it continues to be a very interesting time in the mortgage business. And, we've touched on a number of things on this podcast. And kind of as a reminder, we don't try to make this all about, mortgage banking. We obviously we're all share that profession, and it's important to us. And we're always learning new ways to approach the business, especially in crazy markets like this. And once again, we find ourselves in an environment. We got a big jobs report coming up on Friday. And the reason that's important is because we all got our fingers crossed that we're going to continue to see some downward movements in interest rates, which is great for all of us. It's good for our customers. It's good for everybody we serve. And it's just, I don't know about you, but it just feels like that there's some momentum building up, and a lot of things to be positive and optimistic about.
Yeah. Steve, and by Steve, I mean Steve Thompson, our CEO, sent out an email on Friday talking about, and he titled it Green Shoots, which is really how it feels to me, right?
Yeah.
You're just starting to see and feel those green shoots popping up, whether it be a little bit more inventory, a little bit more customers saying, you know what, I can't wait anymore. I don't want to wait anymore. Let's just go and find something. And, the building, I saw a stat yesterday, Al, that I knew was going to be high, but I don't know about you. I had no idea it was this high, that 30% of the home sales year to date have been new construction. I mean, if you're in an area where there's a significant number of builders and they've got the land to build on, that's really impactful. You know, I'm talking to you today from the Northeast where all that land is used up. I mean, that land is already covered. So it's a little different challenge for them, but it does feel like everyone's sticking their head out of the groundhog hole and saying, man, let's see what's out there. Let's put our feet back in the water.
Well, it's been a long couple of years, so it's just good to kind of feel the positivity and see momentum. And it's especially fun when you're out in the branches. And I love it when you're doing a branch meeting and everybody has to leave because they got a deal they got to put together, or they got a phone call that they have to answer. And so it's just really encouraging to see. And just as a way of thanks to everybody that's listening to this podcast, we know it's been difficult, but we're really excited that hopefully we're turning the page here a little bit. So just as kind of a general reminder, you know, the desire of ours in creating this podcast is to just create better connection, you know, with our team. I think this particular podcast is really fitting because our guests, Dave and Paul, I obviously know who they are, but I haven't spent a lot of time with them. I don't know them really well. And so this is a great opportunity for me to spend some time with these guys. Yeah. And that's really what this is about, is just bringing people together that have shared interests, goals, desires, and learning from each other, and hopefully having a little bit of fun together. So I'm excited for this podcast. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, guys, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a couple of my favorite humans on with us today. We've got David Wakefield. David is our branch manager in Jacksonville, Florida. And he is a University of North Florida graduate. Go Ospreys. And I know that because our oldest son went there, Dave. I don't think you and I never talked about that. But he's been in mortgages since, was that the Rock Ages? Oh, no, 1994. Okay. All right, 1994. Happily married. He's got an amazing wife of almost 30 years. How cool is that, Dave? And 3 children, 1 son, 2 daughters, one of whom just did another piece, I guess I'm going to say, of the Appalachian Trail with David.
That's right.
In the last week or so. So that's been really fun to follow. And the other thing you got to know about David is if you guys don't follow him on the social media, he's a blast to follow. He puts out phenomenal, great content, like for business-wise, but he puts out just really fun personal content. And you're going to see him strapping on a flashlight multiple times around on a sweatband around his head because he is working out at hours that almost all the rest of us are sound asleep, 4 or 5 in the morning. He is out there with a fitness group that he belongs to, working out, and that's super cool. He's also, and this is true of Paul too, both these guys are really involved in their communities. I mean, they are active, they're giving back. Dave is the chairman of the Jacksonville Housing Community and Development Commission, so really pouring themselves into anything and everything they can do to make their communities better. So welcome, Mr. Wakefield.
Thank you.
All right. And then we've got Paul Chiasson. And Paul grew up in a little town that I have never heard of, Paul. Am I Marrero?
Marrero, Louisiana. Actually, we made it to Yeah. There was a song, actually a rap song about Marrero back in the late 80s that actually made it all the way to Compton. Cruising down the street real slow. What the fellas be yelling? Marrero.
Wow.
Okay, you talking about some trivia.
Yeah, I was proud of it. You can Google it.
I will Google it.
That should have been like your walk-up song.
Yeah. So. There we go.
Yep.
And Paul is our branch manager for Greater New Orleans, like really all of Louisiana and Mississippi. And he is born and raised Louisiana boy and lives in Slidell now. Been in the business a mere 26 years in the industry, has a beautiful wife, Jennifer, who's just so much fun, and also has 3 children, Peyton, Carter, and Campbell. And, you know, because that's not enough for us to all have children at home, he's thrown in 3 cats and a dog, because that's a great mix right there, not before you even add the humans, right? Just, I can't wait to see what 3 cats and a dog do together. Paul's also really active outdoors, you know, coaching baseball, running, cross country, playing tennis whenever he can carve out an hour here and there. And he gives back to his community in more ways than I can count. And one of my favorite ones is that he and a friend do a Friday foodie section, but they're not going to restaurants all the time. They're going to different small businesses in their town and really highlighting that business. So they're on there talking, live and eating good food and chatting with the owners or the managers of those businesses. So welcome to both you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
KB, before we get into it, I can't pass this up. So I got to hear about the Appalachian Trail. I need a little bit. So how was that? And I guess I've read about it a lot. I've actually thought about wanting to do it. I'm not sure I want to anymore. But what was that like? Was it what you thought? Was it crazy?
No, it was awesome. So the whole trail, for those of you that don't know, there are trails throughout the country, right? So there's ones on the West Coast, center of the state, and the Appalachian Trail starts in Georgia and goes all the way up to Maine. And it's right at 2,200 miles, just shy of that. And my daughter and I went 4 years ago and started, right? We put our little toe in the water and said that was pretty cool. And then she went to nursing school, and now she's been a nurse a couple of years, and she can kind of, control her schedule fairly well. And we blocked out some time. So the plan will be to section hike it, and do the entire thing. Right now, what happens is you do little chunks. I am not of the mindset of taking off for 6 months of work and doing the whole thing straight through, because that's what it would take. So people actually will start in Georgia in March and then finish up in Maine in September. It was wild, right? So, I mean, you're literally on the trail in the woods. Yeah. You got to throw your, a line up over a tree and get your food away from your camp and to stay away from the bears and the coyotes and the wolves and all that other stuff. And, as we're out there on the trail, struggling with our packs on and all the crazy elevation and the changes, we hear on your left and some ultra runners, blazing by us, hey, I'm doing 32 miles today. And they're like, sticking their little water bottle underneath this little trickle coming off the mountain to get their water. And they just keep going. I'm like, holy smokes, these guys are nuts. So it was wild. I mean, it's a great experience, and it's one that we plan to do again. And now my other two kids want to do it as well. So I'm going to make them start at the beginning. They're not going to insert where we are. So they got to start at the front.
So did you see a lot of other people?
We did. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it was, we didn't see a lot of people while we were hiking, but there are various shelters in theory, which is just like a little lean-to shack that's got a cover that most people won't sleep in. They'd rather sleep in their tents, but so the destination, you would try to get to a destination, pitch your tent. In 3 of the nights out of the 6 we were up there, we decided just to pitch a tent randomly off the side of the trail. Basically, there were a few little tent sites or some areas that were not even technically a tent site that we said this will do for the night. And so it was wild.
Did you see Sasquatch?
we were looking. We saw bears scat. That was close enough, right?
Okay.
Right.
We saw that. We heard the wolves and some owls and coyotes and saw some turkey, but they were wild turkey, but not the kind that comes in a bottle.
Did you meet any crazy people?
We just the runners.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's interesting. It's an amazing read when you start reading about the folks that have done that trail. It just sounds such an adventure.
Oh yeah. No, it's awesome. I mean, I it was sad to come off. So it really was. It was one of those things where, you wish you'd be able to stay on and just keep going. It's beautiful. It's serene. Even one of the days we got rained on the entire hike. But it was just awesome. I mean, it was just an awesome experience, and one of those things where it's pretty cool that my 26-year-old daughter still wants to hang out with me, and my other 2 kids want to get out there and join me on the trail as well. So it's just an awesome experience.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
My gosh. Especially think about how rarely we get that opportunity. Well, we get it. Let me say it differently. We don't take the opportunity very often to just turn off all screens, right?
Right.
Everything that rings and dings and scrolls, all off. And if you can get that time with your kids, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
Yep. Highly encouraged. Paul and I are doing it next together. He's getting out there
Yay!
I can't keep
Excellent.
up with you, David.
So, Paul, what is I haven't spent a ton of time in Louisiana, but the food is amazing. I hear. I've been there a couple times. So, if somebody goes to Louisiana and they've never been before, what do they got? What kind of food do they have to have?
Oh, wow, Al. That kind of leaves me a wide scope, but I'm going to narrow it down. Seafood, Gulf of Mexico, shrimp, crabs, oysters, drum, redfish, trout. The list goes on, and there's a handful of restaurants that just knock it out. Anything that's attached to a Gallagher is going to be good food.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So how do you stay so fit eating all that food down there?
Man, chasing kids. I've got 3 kids that are all athletes, student athletes. So we constantly stay on the road, traveling with them, having fun. Like David, I'm a 4 a.m. guy, 3 days a week, just 3. David probably does it 9 days a week. And what's awesome about getting up that early in the morning is I'm able to just kind of attack the day and also have an accomplishment before I even start my day.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets my mindset ready to get going.
That's really kind of interesting. You guys both touched on what time you get up in the morning, because I think one of the things that is kind of a commonality with many of the folks that we've had on this podcast who are all very successful in this business, they all get up early. They're up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and they're getting productive right away. There's a takeaway just in that.
Absolutely. Wow. So fun, guys. Well, let's jump into some of what we wanted to really highlight with you guys today. Is start us off, each of you. Tell us, remind us how long you've been with Prime, and share what you love most about our company.
I'll go first, Paul. So I started with Prime back when the market melted down. Actually, I guess, KB, you and I probably came over around the same time, right? That was maybe September of 2008. Yeah. And so we both have been here for a minute. And, when we came over to Prime originally, we literally interviewed about 20 different companies, and we brought them into our conference room and said, tell us why we should go work for you. And the culture at Prime really seemed to be the best fit, right? It was a vibe of, hey, we got your back. We're going to help you out. We're going to make you, give you what you need to help you become successful. And it's just kind of like kids, right? You can teach them, you can give them all the stuff, but it's up to them to take the steps. Or somebody we're trying to help improve their credit or help them buy a house, right? We could tell you what to do, but you got to do the work. It's the same thing here, right? So we have the leadership, we got the support, we got everything here. So it's been a great place to be, and it's one that that again is going to continue to stand the test of time. We just got to make sure we lean into it, right? And that's what it's all about.
I think it's amazing that you and I haven't aged a day in those 16 years. Well, I don't know how it happens, but anyway. All right, Paul, catch us up, man.
Yeah, so 8 years with Prime. It seems like just yesterday. And my regional, Brandon Watson, it's the funniest thing. He said I actually recruited and talked to you and got to know you much longer than I did my own wife. So it took him about 2 years to get me the tip. But like David, we did a lot. I did a lot of the same research, and I kept coming back to comparing them all to PrimeLending, right? For a variety of reasons, but I guess to keep it simple, Prime, in terms of my values, how I do business, how I run my family, how I run my extracurriculars, my core values personally, just well aligned with who PrimeLending is and continues to be. And I'm very, very proud to be here. And quite frankly, it's been a great experience. I've loved to see us grow in areas that just really dominate, some of the other good lenders out there. But at the end of the day, I think it's how you feel from a support standpoint. My favorite core conviction, one team, one purpose. We absolutely accentuate that here every single day. So yeah, it feels good. It makes it easy to do business. Knowing that you're supported, especially in this climate, just allows you to kind of embrace the suck, as they say. Go out there and do what you do and do what you do best, and that you got a team behind you to cover you.
Wow, I love it, guys. I think you could absolutely put exactly the same reasons why Al and I joined the company and why we're here today for so many years. So there's a couple of really cool things that each of you are doing that I think just pour into that one team, one purpose, support your people, support each other. And I want to jump into a couple of those. So Dave, you started running some Prime Power Hour calls. And it's it just says I think it's a really innovative approach to sales. And can you give us a little bit of background about those two calls that you're running each week and sort of what they are and what you think makes them so successful?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate that. And, every mortgage lender out there, every coaching platform or purpose all has time blocked specific times, right? You got to block out the time to do the work. And the challenge that we all get is we get busy, right? I'm going to make the phone calls, but then the email's going off or somebody walks in the office. And, so you basically should put close the door, put a do not disturb sign on in essence and say, hey, leave me alone. I've got to get this work done. And I started thinking, and I'll start out by saying it was partially self-serving, right? Because that was happening to me. And I'm like, man, I got to focus on these efforts to drive the business in the door, right? I can't wait for business to come. I've got to be proactive in creating that activity. And so on something that Paul's going to touch on, we were on a meeting together with Paul over there, and I pitched the idea of doing these power hour calls. And what we do is we block out 2 hours on Monday and then 2 hours on Wednesday. On Monday, we're calling real estate agents to try to engage them in new business. In some cases, I'll usually focus on my first hour on trying to call agents that I am working with right now, that I've got some connectivity with, and just kind of checking up on them. How are things going? We got any leads, that kind of stuff. And then the second hour, I usually try to call brand new agents that I don't know to try to see if I can meet them. And I actually just this morning, I scheduled a meeting for one on the 27th. She's going to Europe. When she gets back, we're going to get together. And that was a result of making those phone calls, right? So those are Monday. We focus on the agents. On Wednesdays, we're focusing on our TBDs, right? Our clients that are out there looking, as well as our past clients. And if you've got mortgage coaches out there, mortgage coach feeds in all the people that are closing on their loan anniversary, right? You'll have that little strategy, thing pop in there. You can click in there and just call based on that. Salesforce gives you everything you need right there to look up and call those people. So literally, I just call for 2 hours, right? And when we're making these phone calls, there are a couple of things that you remember on Wednesday that I try to focus on. And this is stuff that I've picked up from various coaching things. But when you call the borrower, you call the agent as well to update them. It's touch the lead, touch the partner. You've heard that before, I'm sure. And what happens is, as you're doing that, you're updating the agent, who then, guess what, very often says, well, hey, I got you on the phone. I just talked to this guy. Would you mind giving him a call as well? Right? So we're creating leads where there were none if we just sat there and waited for the phone to ring. So those are the power hour calls. It's been great. We've had a lot of great success with it, and we're looking to grow it. But we always get positive feedback from the people that are on there.
Yeah, and I think the secret sauce in them, in my opinion, Dave, tell me if you agree, is that, so guys, this is done through, we use Microsoft Teams at our company, but you can do it through Zoom, you can do it through Slack, whatever your company uses, but the cameras are on. Everybody, Dave and Paul kick it off and give a thought for the day or a strategy for the day or something that they just tried that worked and had success. And then everybody leaves their cameras on and they leave their chat feature up and they're dialing for 2 hours silently, right? So everyone's on mute, but the chat is going like crazy. Like, oh man, I just reconnected with an agent that, I hadn't talked to in 2 years. And they're like, yeah, I don't think with my current lender's not going well. I'm glad this is really weird that you called right now, or whatever the outcome is. They're sharing that in the chat and everybody's cheering each other on. So it doesn't feel like you're alone. If you're working out of your house or working in the branch office, or you're in Louisiana, or one of the guys in our meeting yesterday here in Connecticut is on the calls and loves them. So You can be anywhere, but you're part of a community.
Sure. And it's that accountability, and you hit it on the head, right? So you got your screens up, you see everybody calling, you'll have people like, dancing, getting all excited, and so it's just a lot of fun. And then, this is your cash register, is what I say, right? Your cell phone is your cash register. Just ring it up, and it's gonna happen, right? But the key is the consistency. You got to show up. You can't show up one time and say, "Oh gosh, I showed up for 2 hours. I talked to 10 people and nothing happened." Well, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off your backside, whatever. Put the damn effort in consistently, and guess what? Loans will pop out at the other end of it, right? But you got to show up and lean in and put the work in.
Right. And so one day a week, you're concentrating on realtors, current realtors with updates, realtors that you might know that you haven't connected with for a while, and then new realtors. And the other day is 100% same format, but you're 100% focused on past customers.
So past customers
and current?
Past customers and then current leads that are actively out there looking, right? So that's what we're doing now. I mean, in a perfect world, we'll expand it to maybe 3 days a week, and you can spend, one day on, the to be determined people, right, and then 1 day on past clients. But I didn't want to come out too heavy, so two days is enough for right now. And maybe if we think there's an opportunity and support, we can lean in for a third day.
All right. Well, having been on the calls, my next question is really, what's been some of the successful interactions or some of the outcomes that you've seen for either you guys personally? Because Paul, I know you're on those calls too.
Yeah, I could definitely lean into it, Karen. I could tell you right now, David's idea was really created. I feel like it was created for me. I think it was created for any loan officer that's doing business right now. It's an accountability. It's a you versus you session, right, on camera with your teammates. It feels good. And let me tell you, when a loan officer feels good and a loan officer feels confident, a loan officer wants to do more, right? We are driven. If you're a loan officer in this business right now, right, any degree of motivation is important. David just he puts together a very simple forum. I love how he comes in and accentuates some things that have inspired him. But I can tell you right now, it's made a difference in my pipeline. It's made a difference in my business just since we started this I guess it's been about 6 weeks ago. But again, it's a form of just coming together, right? And I think that's important right now. Like Al mentioned, connection is critical right now, especially with our teammates. But what's interesting is I call it unexpected opportunities, right? So these calls are creating unexpected opportunities that will then connect us into business. And we're seeing these loans hitting the pipelines. We're seeing people get excited. We're actually seeing people take it offline, outside of these 4 hours a week and doing more, right? And they're not doing it for me. They're doing it for themselves, right? At the end of the day. And then we're, David and I have gotten, a plethora of really kind emails of gratitude, Teams messages of gratitude, and actually a few phone calls just saying thank you guys for putting this on and kind of igniting this. But it's very simple. It's not difficult. It's not like David and I get together and put an agenda together on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's just coming together as a team, having fun, creating opportunities, and really growing our business and thriving in a market that is not necessarily as conducive to thrive, if you will, right? But it's just old school call nights as we used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
We're doing it during the day and just seeing a lot of positive optimism and opportunities as well as fundings out of it.
Yeah,
what I love about this is that in some ways our business really hasn't changed from the days when KB and I were taking loan applications on a Carbon 1003 back in the Stone Age, right? Is that we've got all these different technologies that we can lever, but it really just comes down to putting the work in and being committed to the work. And then, that phrase that we use so often, but it's just so simple, is that accountability is important in this business right now, right? And to feel accountable to other people and to be encouraged and supported by a group of people that are working through the same challenges and trying to identify the same opportunities as all of us are in this market, being proactive and getting out there and throwing punches as opposed to getting up in the morning, turning on the TV and hearing about everything that's wrong. I just love the idea of taking ownership of what your results are and finding new and creative ways to approach the business. But at the end of the day, it's just work, right? It's like putting the work in and, more importantly, enjoying it, getting satisfaction out of finding new opportunities that when you got up in the morning, you didn't even know they existed, right? I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, and now, I know, nobody said the F word here, but fun, right?
Right.
So we make it fun, right? And that's really what's fun. I mean, if you could find fun and joy in what you do, and making, helping create homeownership, helping create opportunities, putting people in the right direction, having a very giver's mindset. I think that's the key to this forum. We've got a lot of givers here at PrimeLending, right? We like people who want to give of themselves, right? And be a fountain for people, right? Educate, just constantly helping people to figure things out. Should I buy a home? Should I not buy a home? Should I continue renting? That sort of thing. These conversations that we're all having individually with our own relationships, with our own clients, right? It's turning into understanding. It's turning into better education. It's turning into opportunities. It's turning into loans.
Yep, 100%. And the key, guys, is it's a collaboration, right? So we get in there and we're like, all right, what are we struggling with? What's a good topic? What's working over in Slidell, right? What are you doing? And how can I bring that to my local market? So we'll have a quick conversation. And the key, guys, is it's not a meeting, right? So it's not we're talking at you. It's we chat for a couple of minutes. We set the stage. Here's who we're calling. What's a good topic? Well, let's talk about the commission gap strategy today. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that, right? So we come up with kind of maybe a basis to give a little bit of ammunition for the people to start the calls with. And hey, this has been working for me, right? So maybe it'll work for you as well. So we have a little share, 5 or 10 minutes of that, and then we start dialing. And then we pop in maybe at 5 till the hour, check in, make sure everybody's okay, and then wrap it up, 5 minutes for the hour and kind of talk through it to see how everybody did. And there's all the chat going on, right? Hey, I just booked an appointment. I talked to an agent that I hadn't talked to in 2 years, and their lender just got out of the business, right? So now I'm back in. And, so we're having all these opportunities that we're creating that, again, if we just sat there and waited for the phone to ring, would not happen. The loan officer with the most friends wins, right? And the mortgage business is simple. It's just not easy, right? It's simple. Al, you nailed it, right? I mean, it's no different than what it was years ago. When I started in the mortgage business back in 94, I say 94, but it was December, so we'll say 95. I graduated from college the day I closed my first loan, ironically. But when I sat there in December, I twiddled my thumbs for a month because there was none of this. And I said, the phone's not ringing. What do I do? And then I figured out, well, who's got clients? Real estate agents. Okay, well, how do I get in front of them? So I started going out and just making the calls, went to real estate agents, and I would ask them, tell me what the perfect loan officer looks like. Describe to me the perfect loan officer. Who is that individual? And I started finding commonalities, right? They all said about the same thing, and that's who I created myself to be. So I said, okay, I'm going to model myself after all these little things they've hit on. And if I do that, then guess what? I should get loans. And magically, I started getting deals. It took me a little while. I was a slow learner, right? I was very young and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but once I got the hang of it, it worked out pretty well.
I love it, guys. And I don't even know that I've shared with you that the reason that you're our guest today, I get the pleasure of having worked directly with you guys for a number of years, so I know you a little bit better maybe than some of the folks in the western half of the country. But it was one of our loan officers in the East who wrote into our podcast and said, like, you guys need to feature these two. Like, they are providing so much support and so much enthusiasm and energy and positivity and discipline around, what we all need to be doing each day. And it's changed my book of business. It's changed my level of succce. So
that's good to hear. We want to make an impact. That's what it's all about, right? So
exactly.
How can we help?
And then Paul, you have done for I don't know, I feel like it's over a year.
Hatched it during COVID, Karen.
Okay. And a call on Fridays that called External Explosion.
Yeah.
It opened to anybody in the company. It originally started with your team. That lasted, I think, for 5 minutes before others in the region heard about it and they wanted to jump in, and then other regions heard about it. But give us a little bit more insight into what External Explosion calls are about.
Yeah, again, like David mentioned earlier with the Prime Power calls, it was self-serving initially because I felt like I needed a forum with my team when we were just our small group here in my branch in Louisiana, Mississippi, that I wanted a forum of collaboration. I said, guys, up front, this is not a meeting. This is about us. This is about me being, in an area where we can learn together. We can strategize. We can collaborate. We can problem solve. You want to pitch something into the forum, ideas, opportunities, anything we want to talk about. There is no agenda here, right? The agenda is us. It's about learning. It's about growing. And I actually, I'm a big Simon Sinek guy. Big actually reading The Infinite Game right now, which is a great book, by the way. But not to segue off of the topic of EE24, I actually sat down and really crafted out our mission statement, right? Because I felt like this forum was so important to my business and my team's business that I wanted to kind of share a mission statement. So if you guys have a second, I'm going to read it. It's very quick. So our mission, our why for the External Explosion Salesforce 24, and we read this at the beginning of every non-meeting. The mission of the External Let's try that again. The mission of the External Explosion Salesforce Forum is for each participating member to be sincerely dedicated to helping fellow teammates grow their business, not just in this market, but any market. We clearly understand that each member in this room has a very unique opportunity to make great things happen for someone else's business today. The more effort we put into helping our teammates grow, the more we can help make good things happen for our business partners and continue to make a difference in the communities and markets we serve. Together, we will grow and profit to levels we have yet to see. We are the External Explosion Salesforce, and I normally shake my screen. I shake the screen for effect, right? And then we get right down to it. But it's, we kick it off with wins and learns. I think it's important to look back and highlight during the week, hey, what are some wins and learns? Tell us about a big win you had that you're really super proud of. Maybe it was just an interaction. It didn't have to be a funded loan, right? Just give us something like, hey, I met this person. Let me tell you, I don't know where this is going to go, but the dots are connecting, and I now have a one-to-one setup with this awesome, potential business partner. And it's not a brag session. It is an authentic feeling of success and not a bragging session. It's all about just sharing. Hey, I feel good about this. On the flip side, the learns are important. Guys, we get kicked in the teeth every single day in this business, right? Not just in this market, but any market, right? We get kicked in the teeth, we get punched in the gut, right? We get, boom, sucker punched in the eye. We want to learn about those as well. And so we've created a vulnerable environment within External Explosion where people can say, hey, I screwed up, man. This is what happened. I didn't read the guidelines. The guidelines weren't close, but I ran into this at the end. But, we saved the day. 99% of the time, we figure out a solution, right? But long story short, wins and learns are incredible. I'd love to hear them. Not to mention, we also open up opportunities. Like, hey, what are some sliver opportunities you saw this week in the market that you think we could all learn from, and maybe go out into our own individual markets, our little pods of the world, and go out and grow business, right? So it's been very, very much. It's been awesome. Between the Prime Power calls and External Exposure at the anchor of the week, it makes us feel very productive, inspired. The reason why I picked Friday is because, again, Friday people are a little more laid back, but they're also planning, if they really truly care about their business, they're also planning ahead for the next week, right? So it just leaves them with a sense of, hey, I'm on a high. I had a couple learns. I learned, Stacy Nikowski, I'm bringing her to light just because she's an amazing person, but she also brings so much value-added stuff when it comes to guidelines and different products. And, I can't say enough great things about Stacy, but she'll come in and also put some value add in there about, hey, guys, do you know about this product? Hey, do you see this new release coming out? And at the end of the meeting, that's not really a meeting, right, which is about 9:45, everybody leaves feeling good. And I've always felt if you can go into a meeting and bring one thing back that you can apply to your business immediately, it was worth it, right? It was worth it. So again, the meeting that's not a meeting, it's all about, it's not just rah-rah, it's not just motivation. We get down to business. We talk about things that are working, things that are not working. Again, there's no agenda. But I also want to, and it's not just during this external explosion, similar to what David does, I like to shut up and just listen, right? So I do go in, kind of get everybody going and then just shut up. And I also take notes because I apply a lot of the things that we discuss and different strategies and different opportunities. I put it straight to my business, obviously share with the team. Most of my team's on, so that makes it a little easier. But at the end of the day, it just, again, it gets you planning for the next week, but it helps you to reflect, what worked, what didn't work. And quite frankly, I just, I look forward to my Fridays.
Oh man, you guys have got to, reach out to David or Paul if you're at PrimeLending, and they'll get you guys connected with the calls and get you on the calendar. But they are so much fun. The external explosion is, like you said, Fridays, leaving you up, you're energetic, everybody's, it does require a safe space for saying, like, man, I went out and called on this realtor because I looked up their numbers and they were big, but I didn't really look up anything about the realtor. And, they started drilling me right away. Like, what are you going to bring to the table that will be of value to me? And I didn't have my answers ready, right? I didn't prep or whatever. And that's not going to happen to me again. But, so it could be guidelines. It could be sales call experiences, could be a difficult situation with a customer and how that was handled. But it's balanced with the ones that, with the things that are going well. And it's just a really real, genuine sharing. And, one thing that this business, I think, is so interesting aspect of it is that everything we do, we're interfacing with people all during the day, but at the same time, it can feel lonely. Does that make sense? It can feel like I got to be the only person with this issue. I don't think anybody else has ever had this happen before. And calls like this just remind you, man, we're all in this pool together. We're all swimming and kicking and trying to do laps. And it's just very invigorating. So
I think one piece of feedback that I know I constantly get when I'm in the branches talking to, our team, is in those branches where the feedback goes something like this, is that I'm feeling lost or disconnected, or I feel like that I need a change, right? Like, I'm working hard. I feel like I'm doing the right things. I've been successful in the past, but man, right now it just doesn't seem like it's working. It really comes down to loneliness, right? Is that we have people, and this is not unique to PrimeLending. This is part of the industry. Is that we have people that are in different markets. Some of them are in branches that only have 2 or 3 people in them. Some of them are in branches that have 10, 15 people in them. But even when you're in a big branch, you can still feel lonely, right? And I think the battle is against loneliness with a lot of our people. And what you guys are doing is that you're building community and you're providing the energy that so many people need. And when I'm listening to this, man, I'm saying to myself, sign me up. Like that's what I need. And I know, again, from visiting with people on our team, is that unfortunately in this business, what happens a lot of times is people feel like that they need to leave and go someplace else in order to get connected. And the reality of it is that you have all of these amazing people at PrimeLending, Paul and David being a great example, that are dying to connect with you and to give you the energy and the direction that you need. And I just hope that there's 1 or 2 people that are listening to this podcast that just say, listen, I'm in. I'm going to do it. And it would be amazing to follow up with them, because I know that it'll have an impact on people. And that's what the secret sauce of PrimeLending is that we have people that are willing to share how they're approaching this market. And you guys, it's as easy as just raising your hand and saying, I'm in, I'm going to put the work in.
But Al, let me tell you, you just mentioned loneliness, and Dave, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in. At the end of the day, I hold it's a self accountability, right? You've got to be courageous enough to put your hand up. You've got to be confident enough to say, I need help, right? And the beauty of David's forum of Prime Power Calls as well as external is that there's zero egos. Like Dave and I aren't asked by PrimeLending to do this, okay? We do this because we truly love what we do. We're passionate about our business, but we love our people. We love our teammates. And, we constantly, and I've had a plethora, and I know David has as well, of one-to-ones on teams with some people from these forums that have called and said, hey, I want to talk more about that idea or that strategy or that win that was discussed. I mean, what's my best approach? That is what these forums are all about. It's about simply coming in. Literally, this is not going to a manager. This is coming to David or Paul and saying, hey, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this market? What do you think about this opportunity? Hey, I'm struggling with this particular area in my market. How would you handle that? Or have you run into this before? Yes, call it leadership, call it what you want. But again, we both have givers' hearts. Now, we're intense about our business, right? We want to succeed. We're very driven people, right? We're both producing branch managers, but we also love our team. And when I say our team, I'm talking about across the United States, right? So, Dave and I both have Dave and I have a goal, okay, on Prime Power Calls. We want to go, we would like to see 100 people every Monday and Wednesday, all right, to show up. Not for us, but for them. So that's awesome. In a nutshell, Dave. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, 100%. And that's the thing. This is not Tom Hanks in Castaway, right? There's no Wilson needed, right, to keep you company. Because we're all there together. And that's the thing. And that's it's really, it comes from a place of passion, right? It's passion and purpose, right? Because we want to see this through. I mean, we know. According to my financial planner, I'm not going anywhere for another 9 years or so, right? So I need to keep trucking away and making mortgage magic happen, and this is just a great way to do it. And and Paul, like you said, I've had one-on-ones with a number of loan officers. Spend an hour on Teams with them to go through what I'm doing, to analyze what they're doing, to talk them through things. I've had one-on-ones where I've come into, not one-on-ones, but meetings with other offices throughout the country. Out west and things like that, where I've been asked to come in and meet with them and kind of share, and I enjoy doing it. It's something that I want to do because I want to help, right? And this falls into that one team, one purpose type mindset, because we are all here to make an impact, right? We have to do, we follow the ICE method, right? How can we make an impact? How can we do something with certainty? And how can we do something that's easy, right? So as you're trying to evaluate, you got 8 million things you can do. You went to some seminar, you went to something, you heard something that was great, and you get this big, long brain dump list of things to do. When you start picking things to do, remember ICE, impact, certainty, and easy. What's going to make the biggest impact on my business? What can I be certain that I can get done? And what's the easiest thing to check off the list? And let's do that. These power calls or the external explosion, those are things that fit into those categories. Because you're guaranteed to have an impact. You certainly can show up, and if you're not, that's your problem, right? And they're easy to do. Pick up the damn phone, right? It's not a complicated thing. Grab the cash register, show up on Fridays for a few more tips and things like that as well, and let's collaborate and let's get through this.
Right. Last time I checked, I don't think there's a subscription fee. There's an annual membership fee. They're like,
I'm trying to find out some way to monetize it, but so far it's not working for me.
Oh, we're monetizing it, my friend.
Yeah.
We're turning opportunities into loans for ourselves, but also for other people.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
I can't think of that. I can't help but think of that quote that's been around forever that just seems to fit this so well, that a high tide lifts all boats. Right? You guys are creating the higher tide for people, and that that just That just helps everybody.
One of the things that, in full transparency, that kind of drives me crazy is that I oftentimes will hear people ask me, has the culture changed at PrimeLending? Or some of them will say, man, I just feel like the culture has changed at PrimeLending. This call is a perfect example that the culture of PrimeLending has never been stronger, because we are just surrounded by givers. We are surrounded by people who find joy in giving and are truly motivated by not only creating success for themselves and for their families, but have a deep desire to make everybody around them better. And I don't know that there is a greater symptom of culture than what has been demonstrated, in this conversation. And it's kind of crazy because we've already been talking for almost an hour, so we probably got to put a wrap on it. But this has been awesome. Again, as I said earlier, the whole idea of this podcast is just introducing you to people that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to meet and to know. And I can just tell you on a personal level, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, how have I not connected at a deeper level with these guys? Because they're amazing. So thank you for continuing to invest in the team, for taking the time to be on this call, and even more importantly, for your heart and desire to just be great partners for anybody that's willing to raise your hand. So this is just an invitation to everybody that's listening, as Paul indicated, do the easy thing, raise your hand, reach out, get connected. And it'll be fun here over the next couple months to maybe circle back with some folks who would be courageous enough to say, hey, I listened, I raised my hand, and, let me share some of the success stories. So really appreciate you guys giving your time and your energy, not only on this call, but obviously through these events that you're doing. And just as a reminder, for everybody that's listening, we want to invite you back each week or month. Whenever we launch one of these, we're starting to get in a little bit of a better rhythm, as we've learned. And you can find us on your favorite application, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we appreciate your support. And please tell a friend, tell a coworker if you've gotten something out of this, and help us spread the word. So thanks again, you guys, and we'll see you on the next podcast, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. So great work, and thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Paul.